right, hey, welcome back everybody to the Hector and Mike experience. Some common sense in a very uncommon world. Let me do a quick disclaimer before we begin for anybody watching the show and hear some weird sounds going on in the background. No, I don't have people filling out absentee ballots for the recall. They're not hidden in a closet. If you hear any sounds in the back, that's actually my 15-year-old Cocker Spaniel Pearl, who unfortunately, because of her age, has a collapsed trachea. And so she coughs like she used to be a heavy cigarette smoker. So, I just want to let you know that it's my wife and I, one of the things that are passionate about is rescuing dogs that have medical issues and giving them good homes until their time comes. So if you hear some coughing in the background, it's nothing but Pearl just being herself. So just want to give you that disclaimer to start off with. Nothing weird going on back. Well, maybe there is weird stuff going on back there, but it's nothing I know about. And we wanted to kick off today talking a little bit about the recall. Since last we joined you, Gavin Newsom has opened the checkbook. Actually, he's been opening the checkbook, actually, Hector, on a fairly regular basis, except he's been using our money. This time he's not using his money. He's using, Reed Hastings from Netflix and the California Democrat Party money to start his campaign, $10 million worth between now and September 14th, and major media buys throughout the state of California. What do you think? Is that going to be enough? Is $10 million the ante into the poker game, or is that going to be enough to win the game?
Mike, it's going to be the ante into the poker game. You got $10 million coming in from Gavin Newsom, but you also have a lot of different other organizations that have been created that are going to go out there and help out Gavin Newsom. One of his biggest donors right now is labor unions. You've got the prison guards that donated over $1 million. You've got the teachers that donated over $1 million. And so what he's got in the bank account is actually $39 million right now.
Wow. Now,
mind you, $39 million, he's got this election that's happening here in September, but, come another 12 months, he's got the re-election, for governor should he remain governor. And so the rules within the recall, as you know, because we've gone through it together in a previous time, when Schwarzenegger took out Gray Davis, is right now it's this period of time where they're allowed to collect unlimited amount of funds for this recall election, which allows them the ability to kind of put quite a bit of money in the bank account. And so you've got 41 or 46 other candidates that are running to replace them, but I think this becomes a beginning. I think what's going to be interesting is not just this $10 million, which is making some headlines, but also what does he do with some of these buys? Does he go after certain candidates? Does he just talk about and just kind of right now it's in a broad stroke where he's blaming this entire recall on Donald Trump. He's saying that this is kind of Republicans just trying to take over California and make it a Trump state, or and that's his message right now. But does he go after certain candidates? And what are some of the messages? One of the debates I had this past week with one of the Democrats, all they talked about that, and I said, when are you going to talk about some of his accomplishments? When are you going to try to talk about some of the positive things that are happening here in California? And I said, for all intents and purposes, this is a great state. We got amazing weather, amazing people. We're blessed to be here in California, but at the same time, for a lot of folks, it's a struggle to just survive. So when are you going to talk about this homeless issue that you're actually fixing, the crime issue that you're fixing? And so they just went right back into talking about Trump.
Well, there you go. Well, You're right. I saw one of the ads last night actually on the Olympics, and it's all about trying to make this about a national issue. And it is anything but a national issue. And that cuts both ways. It cuts in, for the Republicans as well. Republicans need to send out a message that this is a California problem. And that, all of what usually happens, especially since you have all these people positioning already for 2024 in the Republican Party, they got to be careful about these people coming into California to try and make some gains or make some friends or make some chits for future elections by getting involved in this. We don't need that. We had 2.5 million people sign a petition in the middle of a pandemic to recall this governor. The passion to recall him is stronger, I think, than the $10 million he's going to spend. So I agree with you. That better be his start, because it's not going to be enough. But they really need to focus exactly on what you said. What is his positive message? You know, he stands in front of a sign that says California is roaring back. I don't know, man. The headlines I read is COVID is roaring back. Okay? I mean, COVID is winning again. We have to go back to wearing masks again. Businesses are worried they're going to have to close again. And so what is roaring back is really the question from him. And the question for the Republicans, regardless of who it is what is it that you would do better? And that's a key question that they're going to have to answer. People are going to come out and vote on question 1 just based on their gut, based on how they feel. You get to question 2, that's when people are going to look and say, what is it this person is able to do differently that's better for me? Because that's always the important question for the voter. What's best thing for me? And so I think, that's what Republicans got to focus on. This is a California recall. And anything that Newsom tries to make that it's a national thing, or anything the Republicans do to make it a national thing, is a big mistake, in my opinion.
Well, and one of the things I wanted to kind of, chat with you about is, this idea of, Gavin Newsom. One of the things he goes and says, look, we're giving money here. I've given money here. He had $78 billion surplus. A lot of money that went out to a lot of different groups. One of the things he touted this past week is, he says, I'm now going to fund healthcare for undocumented immigrants, who are 50 years of age or older. I'm going to give more money to schools, more than they've ever had. I'm giving more programs to, opening up more programs and so forth. And one of the things that I've seen over the last couple of years through polling is sometimes people don't care about the solutions. They're not caring about, what's the end outcome. They like that whole thing where they think I'm getting some free money, or I'm getting something for nothing. In reality, it's tax money. But I don't know if we're there yet where people can see past okay, you've got the highest taxes, you pay the highest taxes, gas taxes in the nation. You have the worst roads. At the same time, we just spent $12 billion over the last 3 years on homelessness, but yet the number of homeless people has actually increased.
Right.
And I don't know if people have made that connection, or they care enough because they've got other things, or they don't care. It's been baffling to me.
So the question becomes, and this is the thing about campaigns all the time. You realize voters are very selfish. Their question is, what's in it for me? Okay? So you just mentioned, all the money to schools, which is great for a certain constituency. But parents are more worried right now, is my school going to open? Are we going to be on virtual learning? And does my kid have to wear a mask or not wear a mask? And nobody can definitively tell them that right now, because it keeps changing. So they look at that and say, hey, it's great you're putting more money in the schools, but as it affects my kid every single day, there's as much uncertainty as there has been over the last year and a half. You're right. He signed this legislation to give health care to undocumented, and so people are going to look at that and say, well, why are you spending money on people that are not here legally? You should be spending money on people that are here legally. That's another issue. So people are going to look at it and ask what's in it for them. It really is an interesting way of, it's actually a very old-fashioned way of trying to win a campaign, which is you buy it. You buy it with taxpayer dollars to different constituencies that are important, and now you buy it with all this money that you have, and like you mentioned, the independent expenditures that are in California. You buy the election that way by, starting the game at $10 million. I don't know if it's going to work, because again, in elections, it's passion, especially an election that's a special election, short ramp up time. People not used to voting in that particular time frame. I think they got a real challenge in front of them. If he's spending, let me just finish it with this from a political standpoint. If he's spending $10 million on media, he damn well better be spending $5 to $10 million on turnout, because that's for him what this thing is all about. making sure every single vote from every single special constituency that owes him because of favors he's done for them gets out and vote. So if he's not at least spending half or not more of that same kind of money on turnout, both in early voting, absentee voting, and election day voting, I don't think the 10 million is going to do him any good.
Well, and ways you talk about the intensity coming in from Democrats or people that would normally be supportive of Gavin Newsom. I think we're looking at the poll numbers, and those numbers show that it's about half.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you've got about 47% of the population. 40% of voters that want to recall Gavin Newsom, and that number has changed drastically. That number was about 37% a few months ago,
right?
And so that number has crept up to 47%. So it's now within the margin of error. And I think that's giving a little pause and a little scare over to the Newsom campaign, where I got to see what they posted up online. One of the fundraising emails he put out there is like, "Look, this thing is real. I could be recalled. I need your help."
Right.
And so, I think they've always seemed to be taking this seriously, but it looks as though they're really, at this point in time, they're like, okay, we got to start spending some money because this thing is going the wrong direction for them. And so, like I said, I think this is just the ante. I think it's just the beginning. But they've got to get serious because there's not much enthusiasm on their side. The enthusiasm seems to be on the other side right now.
Totally on the other side. And the question they have to worry about and ask themselves, is it too late? Because you're not going to change it. Anybody that is voting against you, you're not going to change their mind. I mean, the fact that they've reached the point where they want to recall a sitting incumbent governor, I don't know that there's much wiggle room to make sure to change those voters' minds. What he has to do is identify those voters that are his voters and make sure that they turn out. If he does that, then he probably wins. But the question now becomes, is the $10 million too much? And the other question, and we should really, make a note or put a pin in this for the future, does he go off of the message that's going on right now, that this is the national Republicans trying to bring what they've done nationally to California? Elizabeth Warren just cut a commercial for him. So obviously appealing to the far left. Does he change that tactic or that strategy and actually start focusing on individual candidates like Larry Elder, whose numbers are very good, just coming out of the box? If those numbers hold, does he decide to focus some cannon fire on Larry Elder? Those are kinds of things we're going to have to watch for over the next 3 weeks, because this thing is now starting to pick up steam and it's going to happen fast.
Or do you think maybe not too late? Do you think it was too soon to do this recall?
No,
because they had till November. They could have done this recall.
Oh yeah, the recall November itself. Yeah. Well, I said that in the beginning. Yeah. No, I said that in one of our earlier shows. I said that if it was me, I would have planned it for November. I would have done it for November, even though their logic says the quicker you do it, the quicker you avoid problems that may happen, and you get it over and done with. And I said it before, what they fail to understand is the intensity of people that came out and signed these petitions was not Republicans doing it. It was, voters, R's, D's, and declined to states. And so I think they misread that. I also think they misread how quickly things change in the news cycle, whether it's the drought, whether it's wildfires, whether it's the pandemic rearing its ugly head again, those kinds of things which, say California is not roaring back, it's backward roaring. Is that a word?
You just made one up there.
Oh man.
No, but you're right, and we'll see what happens this next week. We'll see how any of the candidates, whether it's Larry Elder, Kevin Faulconer, or John Cox, or anyone else, see what they respond with, how they go up and put up, whether they're going to challenge it with the media buy, but. I don't sprint. It's 50 days.
Yeah, I don't see any of them being able to match his cannon fire on the media. But again, they don't have to.
Right.
I mean, all they need to do is get enough people to vote for the recall, and then do what they need to do to get their own constituency and baseline voters out that they've determined are their voters. They don't need to match him, even come close to match, even cumulatively I don't know that they're going to match the 10 million, ante that he's put in. And certainly, while they'll have their own independent expenditures, none of them will be as powerful and financial as the unions and Hollywood and all of those people that are going to be backing Newsom.
Well, let's changing topics. Talk about the powerful and strong. We're in the midst of the Olympics.
Yes.
We're out in the Olympics out in Tokyo. It seems kind of weird watching these Olympics without any crowds there. Without any cheering or anything else. It just kind of seems a bit odd.
Well, I got to say, first, it is odd, and it takes away from it. It really does. I mean, because they do the cutaways. To last night it was Orlando, where the swimming team has their headquarters. And, you saw people going absolutely bonkers. And that's what the Olympics is about, as well as the athletes themselves. And, it strikes me that, I don't know about you, but I grew up watching them and just marvel still to this day at them and can never understand what it is they go through. I mean, my Olympic moment is I get up out of bed, I put my feet on the ground, and if I don't fall on my head, I'm happy. I may get a gold medal, and I go on with the rest of my day. These people are unbelievable, and the training and the pressure, as we now see, is also unbelievable. But, I think sadly what's happened is it's also been a respite from all the other crap that goes on in the world and the politics and everything else. It's kind of a respite from that. But to a greater extent as I've ever seen, all of that has now creeped into the Olympics. And so you have, you see it on social media, all these people mad at the women's soccer team, the American women's soccer team, because they keep taking a knee during the national anthem. And they had a press conference saying, that their main goal was racial equality as opposed to scoring goals. And so they automatically say, well, I'm not going to watch the Olympics. And, that's their right. But I got to tell you, you sit down and you watch the Olympics and you see story after story, whether it's American or, Chinese or you just see these athletes, succeeding and knowing that everything they put into it comes to fruition. It is a great human story that's not just American, but, around the world. I was watching the other night the synchronized men's diving. These two guys on this huge platform, I'd be throwing up. That thing's so high. And they jump off and they're doing these tumbles in perfect unison, and then they hit the water and there's no splash. I think I was 2 when the last time I hit the water and there was no splash. They're going through this, and there was a real contest going between the Americans and the Chinese, and I'm watching it, and the Americans performed an amazing dive. They go into first place. The Chinese come back, the two guys, they perform an amazing dive. They go into first place, so the Americans win the silver. And it was a great moment for everybody. The Americans, everything they had worked for, they win the medal, and they were so happy with their achievement. Their parents were happy. And then, the Chinese guys, I'm like, well, they got to be happy because probably if they lost, they'd probably end up taking out the garbage at some lab in Wuhan. That's what happens in China when you lose. But, it was a great moment. And so I think people need to put some of this stuff aside of the politics of it and the message sending that some of these athletes try and do, and just look at those that are positive and successful. And feel good about it, whether it's an American team or some other country, and I think that's what it used to be, and it really, I think, would be great to get it back to that point.
And like you mentioned, some of the great messages coming in. I was watching the aftermath of the women's USA softball team, mm-hmm. and one of the leaders there, Kat. She was in tears after the United States had lost in the gold medal round over to Japan, and it struck me, and she talked about everything they'd gone through, and the message that just came out was for the young girls out there, just keep on dreaming,
right?
Just keep on dreaming, and the sport's alive, and just keep on dreaming to try to succeed and try to make yourself better.
But Go ahead. I was just going to say, with that, and we should talk about this, is the pressure that comes.
Right.
I mean, we saw with Simone Biles, she steps aside, and of course, that now becomes on one end. You got, someone saying, and I saw this the other day, writing something about the wussiness of American athletes, and then on the other end, you've got someone else saying, well, if this doesn't tell you the pressure on black women athletes, nothing will. And I'm sitting here saying, how about it's just a young woman who recognizes her limitations and decides to take care of herself and in a way take care of her team to make sure she doesn't do anything to bring them down. And let's just leave it at that. And what it did is it opened the door for this other athlete, Suni Lee, who was an 18-year-old from St. Paul, Minnesota, from the Hmong community, which is huge in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And, she steps up to the plate, given the opportunity, she knocks it out of the park. And I remember seeing the story about her dad before she left for the Nationals, had an accident, and now he's paralyzed, and how important he was, in her life and getting her, training into all of the meets and stuff. I mean, you look at that and it's like, that's good stuff, and we need more of that stuff. But it really does show the pressure that everybody is under, and it also translates. Better than anybody. Your daughter is a outstanding softball player. The pressure that comes for kids in athletics now.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, she's 11 years old, and she's been playing since she was 4 or 5 years of age, and hasn't stopped. And so, the way things are now with athletics, with sports, it's difficult for an athlete or student athlete to play any sport besides just that one sport and just be specialized in it, because like in softball, it's a year-round affair. Mm-hmm. And it isn't as though you just have, your team has practice, because you've got practice on 2 days a week, then you have a speed and agilities practice, with the team. But then it's also, you get together with your private coaches, and you get together with your private coaches for batting. And if you're a pitcher, you've got a private coach for pitching. And so, for some of these young kids, it's 4 to 5 days a week. There's only 7 days in the week, and so and then on the weekends you're playing tournament games where you're playing 5 to 6 to 7 games.
During the weekend, there is a lot of pressure. During the weekend.
Yeah, during the weekend, and it is a lot of pressure on these young athletes, young kids. And one of the things that I've always that I've tried to work with as best as I possibly can is trying to find that balance, mm-hmm. where she enjoys being competitive, she enjoys the sport, allowing her the ability to do so, but at the same time trying to figure out ways in where we can kind of pull back a little bit every once in a while to just let her be a kid. Right. And I think what you find, especially for a lot of these gymnasts, a lot of these other stars, whether it's soccer, swimming, or these other sports, is unless you're starting them early, unless they figure it out early, they're never going to get to that point where they're playing travel and they're being competitive. Now, granted, I've had discussions, where maybe we have her and put her into rec, where she can just kind of go and enjoy and do other stuff. And her passion has been, I just kind of wanted to continue to play competitive. And
right.
It is a lot of stress on these young minds. And sometimes what happens is, because we've had to deal with it, is they'll break down every once in a while. And there's like, Dad, this is just too much. And it's like, okay, I get it. And so we'll try to take a break for a couple of days, or try to do, maybe for a week, and just try to do other things or other fun stuff, and just allow her the ability to, draw, to watch TV. We try to take her out to the movies, or try to do something else that is just focused on her and obviously her sister, but, focus on them and let them be kids again.
It's, I was reading Allie Reisman, who was a major, Olympic winner, talked about how she, her day off was when she only had to train one time a day. And you're right. I mean, and in the case of Simone Biles, it's like this girl, and she is a girl. I mean, she's, a young woman, but she's done all of this training and everything else. And so much of what she does is muscle memory. I mean, because when you're flying, I have no idea, I mean, if I get up to 3 miles an hour on anything, I'm a happy guy. But, she's flying across the thing. She's flying in the air. She's spinning around. And, all of that has to be muscle memory, because the minute you stop and think about what you're doing, you're already lost where you are. It's that fast. And, she talked about not, the muscle memory wasn't kicking in. And truthfully, if you're doing stuff like that and you don't get it right, you could end up falling on your head or breaking your neck or something crazy and sad like that. So I just find it, I give him credit for being able to say, I know how much this meant to them and everything else, but it was just not meant to be. And, you find other things and you move on. I give them credit for that. But I also give credit to those like, this young woman from Minnesota that has the opportunity that she would not have had. I mean, when she got on the plane to go to Japan, she had no idea in the world that she would have this opportunity. She got the opportunity, she stepped in, and she took advantage of it. All of the training, all of the work, all of the dedication, she took advantage of it and paid off. There was another woman the other night from China. She had finished a swimming competition. She got off the medal stand. Apparently one of the team in the Chinese medley, the medley women's swim on the Chinese team couldn't go, so they threw her in like a half hour after she finished her last meet. And, the Chinese ended up breaking a world record or an Olympic record in winning the gold medal in the swim, and she held her own in that. So, it's also an opportunity for those that, step in and can fill that void. And you got to give them all the credit in the world for the work that they've done.
Oh, we could hear her now in the background.
I told her to stop smoking the Camels, but she won't listen to me. I don't get this.
Now, how old is she again?
She's 15, going on 16. And
did you guys get her through a rescue again? Or?
Oh yeah, I got her through a rescue in Northern Virginia. The owner had her, and she had some health issues, and the owner was an elderly person and just couldn't take care of her. And, she has now, unfortunately, she's had a couple of bouts of cancer. And now she has this thing with the throat. So, the weird part is at night when she goes out in the middle of the night and she starts coughing, I'm really afraid the neighbors are going to be like some they think it's some wild animal. So anyway.
No,
sorry about that, folks.
No. It's good. It's good. What we'll do is in the video section, in the comment section, we'll put that organization you guys do work with for the animal rescue.
Great.
And that way, if anyone wants to help out or participet in it,
that'd be awesome. Yep, that would be awesome. Thank you.
And so, Mike, we got. I don't even know what the heck we got right now. To be honest with you, what the heck are we talking about next? I got your dog, your $10 million. I got your Olympics, huh?
Well, I think, just finishing on the Olympics, here's what I would say. I mean, I know people on both sides that take all of this political stuff extraordinarily seriously, and that's fine. But you know what? Watch it, enjoy it for what it is. The work that these people, these young athletes put into this thing, the passion, what is it they used to say in Why World of Sports, the victory and defeat, the agony of defeat, and the fact that they pick themselves up and put themselves in the arena. In the case of Simone Biles, when she reached the point that she didn't feel she could compete and it was going to be a detriment to her team, she did probably the hardest thing an athlete can do, and she took herself out of the arena. And someone came in, and with all the work that they did and all the training they did and all of the family that was there to help them and the whole community that was there to help them, she's a gold medal winner. God bless her. God bless her.
Well, let's on that note, let's end this podcast for today.
That's right.
And then we'll
hold up my Olympic pen.
Your Olympic pen right there. Yeah. And we'll get together again, Mike. And this concludes another episode of the Hector and Mike Experience. Common sense in an uncommon world. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you all.